At the Cannes Yachting Festival last year, I filmed quite a few yachts, but none that stood out in my mind quite as much as this one. Edge. An 85-foot yacht that was memorable for so many reasons. Not just the bright and eye-catching colour of the hull, not just the Tree of Life-inspired staircase inside, not even just the Star Trek styling of a totally unique engine room. To be honest, the thing that stood out to me the most was that it was a really well-built yacht. This was the second Sarp yacht that I've been on board and the second time that I was impressed with the way that it was put together. So I just had to come here to see the shipyard for myself, to take a look at the second in that range of 85-foot yachts that's in construction, and to report back to you. To be frank, the shipyard itself deserves its own video. It is one of the cleanest and well organised that I've seen anywhere in the world. But my interest was in the second yacht that was being built, so I was pleased to see this, the moulds that have been used for hull number 2. As you probably know, composite yachts are built from moulds, and in fact hull number 3 has already been laid up inside this mould, with the superstructure positioned at the side of it having already been taken out of its mould. But you don't have to look far to see hull number 2, the sister ship of Edge, but as different a sibling yacht as William and Harry. I really wouldn't want to say which yacht is which, but hull number 2 is not red to start with. Rather, it is this beautiful, unique, metallic blue colour. And when I say unique, it really is. Custom created by Boero specifically for this yacht. And there are two other very significant changes, one of which is the interior decor, and the other is the propulsion system. Let's look first at the layout of the vessel, seeing what it looks like now and what it will look like when finished. The transom setup is in fact exactly the same as Edge, with a large platform that has already been installed, serving as a passerelle, a swim ladder, and even a lift for the tender. Although a detachable davit is the recommended way to launch and retrieve the tender and other water sports equipment. To starboard, we have access to a small laundry room that was being installed while we were in the yard filming, and to port, a hatch for engine room access, something that we'll take a look at later. The day of our filming seemed to be a door-fitting day. The large sliding doors that will be aft of the main salon and also either side of it were in the shipyard, and work had already started to get them on board. When you see them in their raw state, it all looks very industrial. But when you see the images of what this area will look like on the finished yacht, it all makes sense. And also we get a first glimpse of how the interior styling on this yacht is very different to Edge. I love the interior of both yachts, but this one has something earthy and raw about it, whilst still looking very elegant and luxurious. Probably the most successful combination of jungle styling and sophistication since Tarzan met Jane. Moving forward, to port there will be a galley area, and to starboard there will be direct access to the helm station. As you can see, the wiring and preparation for this area is already well underway. Not only does the helm station look really quite impressive, but that 3-screen Praxis navigation system is just one of the best. It gives very easy control of the entire vessel and all of its instruments. It's not a cheap system by any means, but it is excellent, as any yacht captain will confirm. Forward of the bridge and back to the open deck, and you can see that a jacuzzi tub is being fitted. Again, an addition to Edge that opted for a sunbathing and seating area here. And to port is a hatch leading to a crew quarters for a crew of 4. Oh, and further forward still, so far forward in fact that we're off the boat, I wanted to show you the anchor system. You've got to be careful with anchors. They can
smack against the hull when you're underway, they can swing and hit the hull when you're lifting them, the anchor chain can get tangled. So what Saab have done is they have this arm here for the anchor that retracts to keep the anchor snug against the hull when you're cruising, and then extends when you're dropping the anchor for ease of use and for greater safety. Now let's get back to our tour on board the yacht.
As you descend the stairs below deck, you're faced with the forward VIP stateroom. This is quite an unusual design, since those two sofas that you see in the rendering will actually pivot and close to create a double bed. Moving aft, we have two single cabins, although I should mention that Saab have decided not to go with the circular bed that you can see in the layout, but rather a more traditional double stateroom layout. Not much traditional about the master stateroom aft though. Just look at what a beautiful design that is, matching so many natural materials and colours. I can only imagine what this will look like when you have the blue of the sea through those windows. And by the way, the windows have intentionally been positioned close to the waterline so that the owner and their guests can enjoy the best possible view either at anchor or even underway. To conclude this part of the video though, and the tour of the boat itself, let's go up to the flybridge, where there will be a helm station, a seating area for dining, a small bar, and this area reserved for solar panels.
And the solar panels give a hint to the next big difference between this yacht and the Edge, which had a standard propulsion system with engines to propel the yacht and generators to generate electricity for the yacht. This yacht is a little different.
Because this yacht will have two 800 horsepower MAN engines, two 70 kilowatt generators, but also two 50 kilowatt electric motors and a battery bank. Now the solar panels serve to charge the service batteries for the hotel load, whilst a hybrid battery bank is charged by a combination of the generators and the electric motors powered by the engines. This allows the yacht to stay at anchor using the batteries alone, without having to burn fuel with the generators. And underway, the generators can be used to power the propulsion and to charge the hybrid battery bank and the batteries for the hotel load. Or the engines can do the same, or both. The whole system is controlled by a fully automated power management system. This gives greater redundancy and flexibility to use the yacht according to the circumstances in which you find yourself. If you need the speed, you can run with the engines, the electric motors fed by the generators as a booster to get 21.5 knots. If you need silence or are in a protected area, you can use the batteries. And in between, you can use the solution that suits you. This gives a range of over 1,400 nautical miles at 10 knots. The engine room itself was already being prepared for the engines to be fitted, and you'll no doubt be pleased to hear that will have that same Star Trek inspired styling to it. These soft patches were visible in the afterdeck when we filmed. These are large panels that can easily be removed if you ever have to replace an engine. But equally, they are very useful when building a yacht, so that you can just drop the engines in at a quite advanced stage of construction. This way the shipyard can go ahead with its work in the event that the engines arrive later than planned. The whole operation here is actually very well thought out and very well executed, and during my initial trip, the project manager pointed out some details that I really wanted to report back to you on. Starting with the fact that whilst the hull is of composite GRP with some carbon fibre in places for strength and for lightness, the entire superstructure is of carbon fibre, and at this stage of the build, this was very plain to see.
Actually, this kicked off a really interesting conversation with Melly, the project manager. I mentioned to him that I'd worked for a production yacht manufacturer, and immediately he said to me, did they use vinyl ester, polyester, or epoxy resin? Well, I was curious as to why that was so important to him, and he explained it to me. Apparently, vinyl ester and polyester resins can absorb humidity from the atmosphere, and that humidity can get trapped inside the hull. Well, eventually the water wants to escape. It's just a chemical reaction. So sometimes on yachts with that construction method, blistering can occur, and even osmosis, which is highly destructive. Now, if you're watching this and you have a yacht that's been built that way, I'm not saying it to panic you, you'll probably be absolutely fine. But the fact is that epoxy resin costs nearly twice as much as the other two resins, because it's not associated with that kind of a danger in the yacht building process. So when you see two yachts of a similar size and one costs more than the other, usually there's a good reason for that. Now, I'll come back to that thought in a moment, but first, here are some other examples of Sarp yachts doing things the way they really should be done.
Humphrey interceptors have been fitted to the underside of the hull. These lower to improve the way that the yacht performs underway. Sarp though went the extra mile and fitted this fixed tab in collaboration with the Dutch hull designer Van Osanen. Years ago, if the sea trials resulted in less than perfect performance, then ballast in the form of lead weights would be added to the vessel to change the balance of weight. This tab will allow Sarp to get the same results after sea trials, simply by altering its position if necessary. Then the curved window of the helm station created an interesting discussion. Usually curved glass is heated during the production process, but with glass as big as this, the heating process could result in it cracking. So Sarp opted to pay the extra to have a chemical added to the glass to prevent cracking. This is known as chemically tempered glass.
There's a lot that Sarp do that's not particularly cheap, but then that reflects the approach of a shipyard that want to build the best, not necessarily the cheapest. Now, there's a reason for that I'll probably go into in a future video regarding who owns this shipyard, but for now I wanted to make this point. That is not particularly an expensive 85-foot yacht when you compare it to other 85-foot yachts in the market, but then Sarp themselves would acknowledge that neither is it the biggest 85. What it is a beautifully engineered vessel built by people who really know what they're doing, people who've already built two other gorgeous vessels. It oozes personality, it's totally unique, there's nothing else like that on the market. You wouldn't confuse it for another offering from another yacht builder. It is a great opportunity, and those are the yachts that I love to feature on this YouTube channel. And for the future, well, the future is another yacht, for another day, for another video.